Check this out. I missed the first strike. Look at the line right above my hand. Right here. Flutters. See that? I missed that hit. And there flutters again, and I get it this time. It's a good fish. Hammered it. Oh yeah. Whew. Beautiful fish. We're going to measure him. Oh, yeah, it right on 18. Sitting on the bottom. See this sores on it. Sitting on the bottom. Pretty fish. Yeah. I'll let that one go back. Wow, alive. So I switched from the 1/4 to 3/8, just because I didn't feel like I was. I mean, I definitely was not getting on the bottom. The current is surprisingly strong out here, stronger than I thought originally. And it's definitely different when you're on the other side. You can let it flow. Over here, that 1/4 ounce just wasn't getting to the bottom. So we'll see. See if the 3/8 ounce makes a difference. And I'm sticking with a green color. I was fishing the Matrix Shad Lemon Slice before. This is just a green Zeman. Hey, I'm glad you joined me on this trip out here in Lake Pontchartrain. The morning is starting okay. It's been pouring rain, as you've seen, but there are some fish out here. And I've gotten a decent one, 18-incher so far, and then some smaller ones. But I think I'm gonna move that one Lone Ranger 18-incher. I haven't been able to repeat. That was on the down current side of the trestle. The up current side of the trestle has fish, but they were smaller. So I'm gonna move down the bridge, see if I can find more larger trout. Definitely a 20-incher if possible. And I'm really able to see the difference between the fluoro and the braid here. This current is pretty strong, sweeping from my left to right. And with the fluoro, it wasn't floating it that much in the current, which is what I'm after in this boat positioning. And this braid, wow, it sweeps it from left to right. Now I haven't hit a fish yet, so we'll see if that's the right technique. Go. There's a fish. This will be a decent one too. Yep. Lost my last bait. I'm gonna go get that thing actually. Okay, let me explain this, because you saw that fish come in on a very strange looking rig. This thing is called, I called it the Chalmette Rig. It's something I developed back probably about 2013. It's just a modification of Carolina rig. So we'll start from the top. I've got just a sinker, and that you can use a variety of these. This is like a ½ ounce. I use up to an ounce depending on the weight. Then I have a leader. First thing in the leader is a floating jig head. I have a floating, this is like a Ned rig type bait, and then so that's about a foot long leader, and then there's another about a foot, almost 2 foot leader after that. And then nose hooked on there's just a plain hook, and then I nose hook baits on the end of it. And then this particular hook has a weed guard on it, because here at the trestles it's so snaggy that this saves me from breaking off all the time, because it's impossible to get these loose. So I've got a fluke on the back here right now. I mean, you could put any type of bait you want. They typically hit the back, but I've been getting hits on this thing. One comment is that you have to fish it to avoid tangling it. You really have to fish it so that the line is away from you. It's being pulled away from you. Otherwise, it'll twist around itself, and it's just a big mess. So, if you do fish this type of rigging, it's better to fish it where you're throwing down current and working it back toward you. So I have a hole back in, I don't know, maybe 2014, 2015, I put out or 2016, I don't know, I put out a video on how I make these, and then there's another video, a pool video, showing what it looks like underwater. So I have caught a ton of trout on this thing. I kind of have stopped fishing it. I hadn't fished it for a while, and the bite is really slow right now, so that's why I have it out. But it's a very effective in deep water like this along the trestles. I don't know that it's necessarily a big trout bait. I mean, I've caught 20-inch plus trout with it, but definitely the smaller class of fish really love it. Just a diversion on rigging. Sometimes it's fun to try some stuff. I worked at this for, I don't know, probably a year, trying different rigging. I mean, what I was trying to do was have something near the bottom. At that time I was fishing a lot down by the wall in Chalmette, in like 25 foot of water. That's where the trout were hanging, and I wanted to have something that was light down there, that would kind of float instead of a heavy jig head, something that would kind of float. So that's why I use the Carolina rig concept with some plastic that would float, or the floating jig head helps to keep things up off the bottom and try to get some action. Was very effective back then when I was using it. I had a hit there. Either that or a bird. There was a loon right there that might have ran into the line. There we go. Nope, that was a fish. Kind of hammering on it, but ooh, this is kind of a, I lost it. Dang. Oh, he must have had the front one. That was a little better fish. That's a really little hook on that floating jig head. There we go. See if I can get this one in. There we go. So there's another nice 14-incher. Took the floating jig head that time. I didn't really tell you how I work this thing. You work it in a particular, maybe a somewhat unusual way. I throw it out and I let it fall to the bottom till I can feel it hit the bottom, or if I don't feel it, I just give it time. And then I lift the rod tip and just jerk it up, and then I hold the rod tip and let it fall, and they'll hit it usually on the fall. And then once it hits the bottom, I can feel it hit the bottom again, then I lift it up, or I reel down, lift it up, let it fall. And that can be quite effective. It's really good for this size of trout. It's about 6 ppt. Need to think a little bit about salinity here. I'm looking for some salinity, certainly not completely fresh, and that 6 ppt is enough. It's enough for a decent fish. I just pulled that fish in. It took the trailer at the end. You notice they've removed the tail on this fluke. So they've been attacking this floating trailer bait pretty aggressively. I'll switch to this Seaman Finesse TRD. It's a Chalmette Rig lure. A little wormy thing. They're really hitting it on my front floating jig head, which is not where I want them to hit it, because that's the hardest place to hook them. But that floating jig head is mostly to keep things suspended. So I'm going to try this nose hooked on the trailer, see if that'll increase the hookups. Yeah, this is not working. So see, these tangles have started. It's either because this Ned on the trailer is probably too buoyant. Could be that the tide has changed. This where it says it's about low tide, so the tide could have changed as well. Yep. So I think what's happened here is the tide has changed, and it's probably started to come back in again, and so I'm not having that nice tide to stretch out all these leaders, and then I'm starting to get tangles. So I'm going to switch off of this, because I just can't. When it gets like this, it's a mistake to spend a lot of time trying to deal with tangles. You need to be efficient when you're fishing. Came over to the downstream side and immediately got hammered. It's most certainly a redfish. Forgot to get my net out. This is going to be something that needs a net. For sure. Come on, I at least want to see what this thing is. I hate when you have a fish and you never get to see. Yeah, it's a nice-ish redfish. No, you're not ready. There we go. Whew. That thing's got pretty color. Wow. There's a pretty redfish. Look at that thing, the color on that is gorgeous. Yeah, so that day was less productive than I'd hoped. Maybe one of the problems that the major feeding period was really early in the morning, like 4:30 to 6:30, and when I got out on the water, started fishing at 7, there was some activity That's when I caught that 18-incher, and there was some other activity, but it kind of died off pretty quick. And then there was a minor period, but half the minor period I spent under the bridge with a severe thunderstorm over me, so that was a waste. And then in between, they just didn't bite much. So a couple little small ones, you get a hit once in a while, catch a little dink once in a while. So that's the way it goes. But I'm looking forward to spending some more time out here in Lake Pontchartrain this spring, and I think it's going to be good. I know the size of trout out here has been good from what I've seen of reports, so I'm ready. Thanks for watching. Catch me on the next video.